Heath, I saw one of many. There are so many projections on the college football playoff that I just enjoyed the one I saw this morning that was just based on the AP rankings. It was simple enough. It's like we're not projecting anything but where they are right now in the AP poll. If I told you there's a scenario, and it's not far-fetched, where Georgia and Georgia Tech make up half the Final Four in college football, do you think that's realistic?
Could be.
Okay, let me lay this out for you. Here's the potential for Georgia. Right now, according to the numbers, AP's got them at number 5. So Georgia would be the 5 seed. They would host number 12 South Florida in Athens. If they won that game, big bad Alabama would be waiting in the quarterfinals. And I know that's always going to scare all Georgia fans. Here's the good news. I do subscribe to it's tough to beat a team twice, especially when one of those games is not going to be on your home campus. Alabama, Georgia would be on a neutral site, I don't know, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, wherever it would be. That I think it's very difficult when teams are very comparable in talent to win a second time. So it would be very feasible that Georgia would win that game, and all of a sudden you look up and they have a chance to play in a Final Four. If Georgia beat Bama, they would be in the national semis, which we'll talk about in a moment. As far as Georgia Tech, based just on the AP today, don't take a deeper dive than that. They're ranked 7th. They would be the 7th seed, and they would host Vandy in a first-round game at Bobby Dodd. We know Diego Pavia is very capable of coming in here and winning. Georgia Tech, I imagine, would be a small home favorite, and they could win the game. In the second round, in the quarters, they would be scheduled to play Indiana in, I don't know, maybe they could play them in the Cotton Bowl. Maybe they would go out west. I don't know. Indiana's really good. They have Mendoza. Everybody realizes now this is different than a year ago. They're not just like sliding through in a bad schedule. But it's not a game that I think you go into and say you can't win. If Georgia Tech was able to pull a small upset off and beat Indiana, you could be looking at a Final Four if the rest of the seeds were to hold, where Georgia would play Ohio State, pick a game, Fiesta Bowl. Georgia Tech could play a Texas A&M or an Oregon, whoever was to survive a 3-6 matchup, potentially in Atlanta. That is the scenario that I'm giving you that is not that far-fetched, that 2 of the Final Four in college football could be the powers in this state. How ridiculous is that?
One thing I think is interesting for Tech is if you look at it, let's just say they run the table. They win everything, even beat Georgia, win the ACC. They are an undefeated team. I don't think there's any scenario, even if they do that they can get past the 1 seed or the 2 seed. I don't think there's any chance that they, with the schedule that they will have, would get enough love from the committee to be 1 or 2. There's a decent chance they might be 4.
Agreed.
And if you fall in the 4 spot, then you've got the winner of the 5-12 game. That's going to be a manageable opponent for your next round. And even if you're the 5, if somehow you're the 5, you still, again, you're in the 5-12 game with a USF, a Memphis, a Tulane.
The 5 spot's a good spot.
Like there are some ways that this could work out. Just knowing with Tech and what their schedule reality is, that 1, probably 2 are just not even accessible to them. They could find themselves in a pretty good spot in the bracket if they can just run the table between at least now and Georgia.
No, I would agree. And again, it sounds silly. It's not at all, though. You're talking about 2 teams that the rest of the way for Georgia, schedule very manageable. Yeah, could they slip up against Texas? Sure, they could. But they're going to be favored the rest of the way in their games. Georgia Tech, outside of Georgia, favorite the rest of their games. So this could line up later on in the season. Incidentally, right now, just based on the AP, Ole Miss would host Miami in an 8-9 game. Number 6 Oregon would host BYU in a round 1 game, with the top 4 seeds being, I think, based off memory, it would be Ohio State, Texas A&M, Alabama.
Right now, they're putting Indiana up there. But that's Indiana, the thing. By then, Indiana is going to have to either beat Ohio State or lose to Ohio State, so they're going to move a little bit.